Okay, so hello everybody. This is just another quick review. So welcome back to Barry's Book Reviews. This is episode number 45. And today we're exploring a novel that has captivated readers worldwide with its haunting narrative and profound themes. So I'm back to make another video about Han Kang's recent success in winning the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2024. So my other Han Kang videos are doing surprisingly well. So I thought I'd make another Han Kang video. I've already reviewed Human Acts. You can find that elsewhere on the channel. I also reviewed Greek Lessons and The White Book. So today I'm going back and I'm reviewing The Vegetarian, right? So because unbelievably, I haven't already reviewed it, which is a little strange considering how famous it is. So, of course, this is The Vegetarian by Han Kang, translated from Korean by Deborah Smith. And I'm excited to talk about this novel. Such a famous novel now. So, of course, The Vegetarian has received significant international acclaim, including winning the Man Booker International Prize, and I guess setting Han Kang on the journey to winning the Nobel Prize this year. And even before this novel was published or translated into English, Han Kang was a very prominent writer in South Korea, and she was known for her lyrical style of writing and for exploring human psychology. She was born in 1970 in Gwangju, and she's written several novels and some poetry collections as well. But arguably, The Vegetarian is still her most famous work here in South Korea and internationally. It was originally published in Korean in 2007 as 채식주의자, and the novel was translated into English by Deborah Smith and released in English in 2015. The translation won the Man Booker International Prize the following year, bringing both Han Kang and Deborah Smith into the global literary spotlight. Smith's translation was praised at the time for capturing the poetic and the unsettling nature of Han Kang's writing. And there were also, however, some controversies in Korea among the other translators over what people argued were the liberties that Smith had taken in this translation. Nevertheless, so what is this novel about? So the novel has a rather unusual premise centered around a woman's decision to become a vegetarian. So how does this choice impact her life, and why does she make it? So hold on one second. So The Vegetarian tells the story of Yeong-hye, a seemingly ordinary woman who, after experiencing disturbing nightmares, decides to stop eating meat. Her choice is seen as an act of rebellion against social norms and family expectations in South Korea. The novel is divided into 3 parts, each told from the perspective of a different character who is closely associated with Yeong-hye. So her husband, her brother-in-law, and then finally her sister. And it's through these different perspectives we witness how Yeong-hye's decision spirals into a profound transformation that affects not only herself, but also those around her. So her passive resistance of becoming a vegetarian acts as a catalyst for exposing the repressed desires, frustrations, and even violence within her family and indeed society at large. The book examines complex themes like identity, conformity, and mental health. And Han Kang explores these concepts through her characters. So she uses Yeong-hye's transformation to explore the human psyche and critique social expectations. So Yeong-hye's refusal to eat meat is more than a dietary choice. It's a rejection of violence and a desire to connect with nature on a fundamental level. And as she becomes increasingly detached from reality, her actions force the other characters to confront their own inner turmoil. So, for example, in the second part of the novel, Yeong-hye's brother-in-law becomes obsessed with her, and he projects his artistic and sexual fantasies onto her in a way that blurs the lines between reality and desire. In the third part of the novel, her sister grapples with guilt, responsibility, and her own suppressed emotions as she tries to understand Yeong-hye's descent into seeming madness. And it's through these intertwined narratives that Han Kang examines how individual actions can disrupt social norms and expose the fragility of personal and cultural identities. Now, Han Kang is known for her surreal and sometimes unsettling imagery. Do we see examples of this in Vegetarian? The answer is a resounding yes. So Han Kang's writing here is rich with symbolic and often visceral imagery that reflects a character's inner state. So one of the most striking images is Yeong-hye's recurring dream of blood and violence. And these dreams initially trigger her aversion to meat at the beginning of the novel. And these dreams are described in graphic detail, conveying her deep-seated discomfort with the brutality she perceives in the world around her. Another powerful image is Yeong-hye's desire to become a tree. As her mental state deteriorates, she starts to believe that she can photosynthesize and no longer needs food. This transformation is depicted through very haunting scenes where she stands naked in the sunlight, stretching her arms like branches. And this imagery is both beautiful and tragic, symbolizing her yearning for purity and escape from human aggression in general. Sorry, excuse me. And Han Kang uses these very unsettling scenes and imagery to challenge the reader. She forces us to confront perhaps uncomfortable emotions and question the boundaries between body and mind, reality and illusion. This is a novel that doesn't shy away from difficult topics, including mental illness and domestic abuse. How does Han Kang handle these issues in the narrative? So, The Vegetarian addresses these very heavy themes of sensitivity and nuance. Yeong-hye's mental illness is portrayed not simply as an individual affliction, but as a response to the oppressive environment she inhabits. The lack of understanding and compassion from her family exacerbates her condition, highlighting the stigmatization of mental health issues in society. Domestic abuse is also depicted, and we see this in the controlling behavior of Yeong-hye's husband and the physical violence inflicted by her father during a family gathering. These scenes are intense and serve to critique patriarchal structures and the suppression of female autonomy. Han Kang doesn't offer easy answers to any of these things, but instead presents these issues in a way that encourages reflection. The novel raises important questions about empathy, the right to self-determination, and the consequences of social pressures. So finally, what has been the critical and cultural impact of this novel since it was published in Korea and since it was translated into English? So in South Korea, even before the Nobel win, The Vegetarian was considered bold and unconventional work that challenged traditional storytelling and traditional social norms. Internationally, the novel's success, particularly after winning the Man Booker International Prize back in 2016, this brought increased attention to Korean literature and has inspired significantly greater interest in translated Korean novels. And the novel sparked discussions, as well as I hinted at earlier, about the art of translation. So, like I said, there were these debates at the time over Deborah Smith's approach to translating Han Kang's prose, translating her writing here. And some critics argued that liberties were taken. Others believe that the translation captures the essence of the original work and has been instrumental in its global resonance. I will leave it to other people to judge. Culturally, The Vegetarian has been praised for its exploration of universal themes and its unflinching examination of the human condition, has inspired readers and writers to consider the power of narrative in addressing complex social and psychological issues. I think it's a profound and thought-provoking novel. It stays with you for a long time. Very innovative storytelling. It invites you to think about uncomfortable truths about humanity and identity, the constraints that are imposed on us by society. It's a challenging read. But it's one that I think offers rich rewards in terms of introspection and understanding. I've got one final comment I would like to add. So some readers of The Vegetarian at the time when it was published in English noted that it has a connection to Herman Melville's famous short story, Bartleby the Scrivener. And I'd just like to comment on this very quickly because it is quite interesting. So both The Vegetarian and Bartleby the Scrivener explore themes of passive resistance and the human response to social expectations. So in The Vegetarian, Yeong-hye's refusal to eat meat is a quiet act of rebellion, or initially a quiet act of rebellion, which ultimately leads to her psychological and then physical breakdown, reflecting her rejection of the oppressive structures of the family and society. Similarly, in Bartleby's famous repeated phrase, "I would prefer not to," signifies his passive resistance to the demands of a capitalist society. And both these characters exhibit a form of non-conformity that unsettles those around them, yet their refusals remain rooted in personal choice rather than an overt protest. While Bartleby is often seen as a tragic figure who's consumed by some kind of existential despair, his rebellion lacks a clear motive and ultimately leads to his isolation and finally his death, if I remember correctly. In contrast, Yeong-hye's choice stems from a deeper, maybe even mystical need to reject the violence that she perceives in life. And this leads to her disintegration, but it also serves as a more profound commentary on bodily autonomy and the constraints placed on women. Both stories challenge readers to consider the limits of social control and the ways in which individuals assert their autonomy. But The Vegetarian brings in these sort of cultural and feminist dimensions that Bartleby doesn't really address. Anyway, still very interesting. So anyone interested in literary works that push boundaries and provoke meaningful discussions, I think The Vegetarian is a must read. There is a film adaptation of The Vegetarian, which I haven't watched. It's been re-released at the cinema here in Seoul to coincide with the Nobel Prize win. Haven't had a chance to see it. I would love to try and catch up with it sometime. And I think there's only a couple of other books, Han Kang books that have been translated into English that I haven't reviewed. And I might try and review those sometime soon. So one of the other books that Han Kang has in English translation is a short story called Convalescence, which was published as part of the Modern Korean Literature series by Asia Publishers. And the translator for this is, who is the translator on this? The translator for this isn't Deborah Smith, who's translated most of her other books. It is Chon Sung-hee, who I'm not too familiar with. But actually, Han Kang visited my book club several years ago and signed this book for me. And you can see the interview with Han Kang from my book club also on the channel. So please watch that. And then there's one more short story that Han Kang has available called Europa. Haven't actually read this yet, so I'll try and read this sometime soon. And again, I will try and find time to review it. This one I know is translated by Deborah Smith, so I'm looking forward to reading and reviewing that one. And I think that's all that I have to say today. So thank you for watching, and leave some comments, click the like button, all that sort of thing, and take care. Thank you very much.